I just wanted to say thank you for engaging and taking time to listen to this podcast. This is the Engaging for Change platform. The idea is to give young people, professionals, parents, the opportunity to discuss and share experiences in the hope that we can help future practitioners and young people understand certain experiences people are going through. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, because without the viewers and the listeners, we can't continue. The idea is just to keep getting some people in who want to share their stories. So like I said, we can all kind of learn and just move forward together. Yeah. So once again, thanks again for taking time, for being part of this journey. It's exciting. So yeah, today we've got an exciting guest today. We've got a parent, been through a lot. We've spoken before in the past about things, what have happened, being judged, and like the struggles of, being a parent and trying to fight for, what's out there for his daughter. So I think it's quite powerful, very passionate guy, and excited to kind of welcome kind of Chris on here. Chris, how's it going?
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated for the time and the opportunity to tell my story, really.
Yeah, no, as I said, like we've spoken in the past. I know you've, gone through all kinds of hoops.
It's been a roller coaster ride. It really has, yeah.
Yeah, and, the passion you've shown in order to kind of get what's right and to get the right support in place. There's a lot of parents out there who are probably, ripping their hair out because their child's not being able to get the support what's needed. They don't really know how to go about it.
Yeah,
so I think it's
very frustrating, and there really isn't enough help out there even to just point you in the right direction of who to speak to about it. It's tough going. Especially from my experience as a single dad. For me, I mean, there's plenty of help for mothers, but there's not a lot of help for dads out there.
Yeah, like I remember having a conversation, you talking about like finding it difficult. You're talking to professionals at times and feeling that they're almost like, I don't know, judging or looking down or,
Yeah, they do get very judgy. I mean, even doctors, when I've spoken to doctors before, about my daughter and her needs, they've come straight out and said, well, what's mum's opinion and this kind of thing. And it's like, well, I'm a full-time dad. Shouldn't you take my opinions into consideration? And it is like they look down at me being a man and a dad that, I'm not capable or don't know my daughter well enough to be able to give them the information, which is, it's heartbreaking on my end, pulls a man apart.
Because I mean, I've, been aware of some of the conversations we've had in the past and you're having to go through a lot to get to where you are. So that's massive. But I say what we do, if we rewind things, we're almost running away with stuff and getting straight into it. Getting straight into it. Just like tell the audience, like, I don't know, a little bit about yourself, kind of what you're into. And then let's just organically go from there, really.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Chris. I'm 44 years old. I've got a beautiful young daughter, Mia. She recently got diagnosed with autism. She's 14 now. It's taken more than 7 years to get her that diagnosis. What am I passionate about? I mean, I'm passionate about family, really. Family is very important to me.
Nice.
Setting a good example, that's important to me. And trying to juggle everything, be the provider and, do the family home side as well, It's, that's mostly me, really.
Yeah, no, nice. Thank you for that. So it's 7 years, yeah? So 7 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, within that 7 years, so was Mia going to, like, mainstream school or what?
Yeah,
what was
so Mia's always attended mainstream school. Because of her age, her birthday's in August, I wasn't told or made aware by any of the school boards or anything that I could have started her a year later because of where her birthday fitted. I knew she wasn't ready for school, but no one said that was an option for me. So I started her not knowing that I could have waited another year and started her when she would have been a little bit more developed.
Yeah. Okay.
And I first sort of realised that Mia had issues when she was about 5 years old. She was very difficult with food, and it was very stressful. And I approached CAMS on many occasions. I wrote them letters, emails, and I'd always get the response back from them. Would be a same generic response that they send out to everyone. There's not enough for us to look into this at the moment. They didn't even have a phone conversation.
I mean, with Cam, from my experience, they're obviously like stretched and almost non-existent at times.
Yeah.
You know that they do want to do their best, but from my experience, where I've worked with a couple of young people, unless they've been kind of suicidal, they're not really. I don't want to be rude because they are really good, but because they're so stretched, it's impossible unless it's at crisis. But then I've been in other situations where we have got there and I supported young people, seeing workers who have been talking about, like, I'm talking like out of say 50 young people, more than two of them needed CAM's involvement. So, I mean, CAM's like, you're doing a good job, but you need more staff.
Yeah, more staff, more funding.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that slip through the net, and if you're not persistent about chasing and getting help, then they'll just completely forget about you.
And you can deteriorate. Like if there's a waiting list for 3 months, so much can happen in 3 months.
Yeah.
If you're at crisis, and at that point, you need to talk to someone, or you need some kind of intervention.
Yeah. Even if it's just a case of a support network to be, if they can't themselves help you, or don't have the funding for it, or you can't fit in somehow, maybe they could recommend people.
Signpost.
Yeah, put you in the right.
Maybe a form of physical therapy or something that might help.
Something that might help, or some some kind of class of people that might be able to aid you.
Yeah.
Because doctors don't aid you when it comes to this kind of stuff. When you talk about school and things like that and what their struggles are, they don't want to know. They're not really interested. Even when you say you think that your kid may have special needs, doctors tend to, just push it off without having something from the school saying, yeah, we believe Dad's right in this. Then they just don't. They're not really interested.
Interesting. That is, because do you think it could be that some of them, it's not they're not aware of, like they're not confident with those diagnoses, because you might have like special doctors, you might be referred to like a special unit in the hospital where they can do these assessments. Whereas your generic GP,
I think
might not.
I mean, from my experience, it's more along the lines of for a doctor, your own personal doctor, to take what you're saying about your child into actual consideration. They almost need backing from someone from the education. Right. They need the school to say the same thing or something like that,
But that's probably because they feel that the school are more
qualified. And that's like the really frustrating bit is, who is more qualified to tell you that your child has special needs than you? You're the one that spends the most time with your child. If you know something isn't quite right or they're struggling areas, then you should be the first one that's listened to. Not, you shouldn't need someone else.
I get that. Parents, keeping diaries and stuff and being able to kind of highlight that, well, this is what's going on. This is definitely not right. That should be taken into consideration. I'm sure it might do in some cases, rather than, it having to take such a long time.
Yeah.
Because in that 7 years of like Mia going to school, struggling at school, trying to work out what's best, also not knowing if the local authority are going to let her go to a school with more support or not. Like, these are all troubles what you've had to face, right?
Yeah. It's been a long battle. I mean, she was only diagnosed last year, and once she had that 2 years ago, right? And once she had that, it's taken another year to actually get her into a special needs school, and it's one that is nearly 50 miles away from where we live. So, I mean, it's long, but I mean, it's good that she's doing well there now, and it's the right place for her. But it's taken to the point that where she's now 14, she's only got 2 years left. So for me, it's a worry that is she going to be able to catch up with those 2 years?
No, but has she got an EHCP?
She has, yes.
So with an EHCP then, so there's, you do know that they're entitled to have support and education.
Yeah. I mean,
so they're 20.
Yeah, the new school that she's at now have said that they if when she's 16 and she does her exams, if she's not happy with them, she can actually stay at this school on a part-time basis up until 18 if she wants to retake
Yeah.
all of her exam, which is a really good thing.
There are some good. I've done some work with. So when Mia gets to like 16, we've had quite a few young people who was getting to say 16 or 18. Then we got them on like an intern traineeship type thing with Team Dominica in Brighton, which is good, where they will basically support her with a job she wants to do. She have a person who will then go along and support her while she's at that job to help her become independent. I think that lasts for a couple of years. It's almost like a good progression rather than jumping from here to there and being out of your comfort zone. Jumping from here to here.
Yeah, slow steps. It's what's required for people with special needs. They need that steady steps, to gain the confidence as they go. Mia, she really wants to go to college at Plumpton and study animal care.
Nice.
Just, animals
really
is
good.
her love.
Nice.
She'd like to work for the ISPCA or a dog shelter when she's older. That's the two things that are key. It's perfect for her. She loves animals.
So yeah, we spoke about, we're talking about EHCP and that being in place. So like what was it like? What was the process? Was it timely or?
It was, for the stuff that I had to do on my end, there was very little other than constant pressure of the school, because it all has to come from the schools. And that was where I found my biggest, blockade was the schools. They just didn't want to go down that route. They would continuously be like, oh, well, she's just struggling in this area because she's a bit younger than the others, or she's struggling because of this, And once they finally got forced down that route, EHCP came through quite quickly.
Okay.
It was not a bad, experience for me.
So do you think, because obviously with an EHCP, the school, they kind of look at it and have to be like, all right, well, we're able to meet the needs of this young person. And it's a legal document which states you need to do that, yeah? So do you think that they drag their heels a bit in the hope that...
I think a lot of them drag their heels because they know that they won't be able to conform with the AHCP anyway. It was the same with, Mia got hers while she was still in the mainstream, and they couldn't keep up with what was on that. So they did what they could, and in a lot of cases they just took her out of main classes and put her in small classes. Yet she still wasn't getting what was suggested on the HCP.
I look at it like it's a funding issue. Keep her here so we're getting funding, and I know we kind of look at the schools because the schools are in the middle, but I just feel like not enough's done up here, which should then filter down so that schools are equipped properly to be able to help these young people, because it's not their fault.
It's not, no.
And we all learn in different ways.
Yeah, and a lot of the teachers as well, you could see the frustration, when I've had meetings with teachers, the frustration on a lot of teachers, because they know that they're not in a position to be able to give the help that they needed. All they're given is they've thrown a bit of money and said, right, now deal with it, And a lot of them haven't had the training they need to be able to pick out the best ways to deal or the best ways to aid these children, And I feel like that's a big issue, and that's something that's dealt from further up the chain, They're saying, here, have some money, but we're not going to actually help you, get what you need in place. We're not going to allow you extra teachers that are actually trained in this. We're just going to give you a bit of money and say, cope with it.
Yeah, so that must be really frustrating for yourself and for Mia.
Yeah.
Having to deal with that. So that's that. But obviously now you've got that in place. Mia's at school now, which is a lot better, and she's enjoying. Yeah. But, she's had a couple of years at secondary school, but it's been a little bit
it's
challenging.
It's been a big challenge for her, yeah.
But like now, so is it a special school she's in, or is it like alternative provision?
It's a special needs school that she's in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your experiences of that there?
Well, she's only been there for a little over a month now, so it's still early days. But I found the communication with the school is far better. If Mia's had a rough day, they ring me. They don't just, send me an email or anything. They actually call me and tell me, like, Mia had struggle here.
Mm.
Um, or she's had a brilliant week. They call me and say that, she's been doing brilliant this week. The communication is good there, and they pick up on things that a normal school wouldn't pick up on.
And is that because of
their training? I
training
believe
and stuff?
they're far better trained to be able to deal with it and to be able to pick up, and just to spot a scenario where, for instance, Mia was getting a bit quiet on her. I think it was her first week there, and the TA said, they rung me up and said, "Are you all right with us, taking her out for a little walk?" And that's what they did. They took up the lane.
That's being responsive, because we can see that Mia's struggling. So let's take her out of this environment, go for a walk. It's therapeutic. And let's see how she copes. And then we can go back, reset, and start again. And I think it's important. It's those little things. I mean, it could be that there's smaller classes and there's less pressure, so they're able to give that extra support. Because sometimes it's those little tweaks.
So they're very small classes where she is. It's 5 classes, a main teacher and a TA. 5 students, a main teacher and a TA. So
Nice.
3 to 5, 2 to 5 is
good numbers.
Good balance. Yeah.
And that's what I think is needed for young people who struggle a bit.
It is. Yeah.
I can get away with maybe 2 to 8 or 10, depending on the young people.
Yeah, but when you're teaching 30 students,
it's carnage.
Yeah,
I don't take nothing away from them, because I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it. I'd struggle.
Yeah, it'd definitely be hard.
Definitely, and I'd strike myself as being quite experienced, working in alternative provision and with young people who are a lot more challenging than others.
Yeah, I mean, kids in general are very different, and they all learn in different ways. So to expect that many kids to be able to sit down and do exactly the same work and behave in the exact same manner, I think is just wrong anyway. There needs to be adjustments in the whole school system, in my eyes.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. So your journey. So it sounds like you're doing a sterling job. Yeah, as you said, a bit of a roller coaster. You've had to go through a lot to get to where you are. You're bringing up Mia by yourself, stuff which is amazing. Yeah, must have its challenges.
Yeah, it does have its challenges. There's certainly been a lot of difficult situations that have been brought on due to the schools, and them just, not understanding Mia and her needs. Like before she had a diagnosis, there was an instance where I've got a friend of mine who knows where he works for kids, has been there by my side since I've been a single dad, and he's always been helpful. And there was we used to go swimming and stuff with Mia, and then Mia one day at school drew a picture of me and Mia and him swimming. School took this as something dodgy and called child services on me.
What?
And, he's a professional that works with kids, and I had to deal with child services poking into our life, making me feel like I've done something wrong, when
because
this guy's been more supportive of me and bringing up Mia than the whole system has,
Yeah.
It's just like...
So you've got someone who's been there, who understands you and has been there, who helps you.
And who understands
do
kids
together.
Yeah.
And Mia's drew a picture because you've been out and had fun or something.
There's been instances in the bar. I mean, I've always generally worked, but there's been instances when I've had gaps, and mostly it's been due to like mental health and just the struggles of being a single dad. Sometimes it just gets you and breaks you down. But so there was times when I was just skint, and this guy would know that, and he'd be like, "Right, let's take me away for the weekend. Let's go out somewhere this weekend." Rather than saying, "Oh, here's some money," trying to help me out, because he know I wouldn't take money, because that's as a man, you don't take money from people. You want to be able to.
Too proud.
Yeah, exactly. So instead he'd be like, "Right, this weekend, let's go away somewhere. Take me out somewhere," things like that, And and then to have social services come along and act like this person was something other than that. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, but then from their point of view, they could, social worker, whoever it is, it could be a bit like, okay, well, what's going on here? And okay, well, let's look into this. would it have been the same if it was like a mum and her friends
I
going
doubt
to
it.
these things? No.
I doubt it. For me, it feels like the system is still. I know it's got a lot better, but it's still very, very biased against single dads, and that's been a constant theme throughout my life. You know, and it's made life far harder as a dad because of that. You're biased against single dads. We're just looked at as less.
But you're doing a sterling job, yeah. And from what I know, you do a sterling job. You know, like Mia's happy, she's doing well. You do more than a lot of people.
I mean, it's all you can do, really. Is just keep your head up and keep pushing through it. Sometimes you might have bad days where it gets you a bit, but you just gotta remember you got someone that depends on you. And that's the most important thing is that you're there for that.
Yeah, not fair. So like us being on this platform and stuff, like sharing your story and stuff, and a lot about Mia and education and how you've had to go through certain obstacles to get to where you are now. What do you want people to take from this?
I mean, for me, it's more about sort of sharing what I've been through as an opportunity for people to realise, they're not necessarily on their own. You may feel like you're on. For me, I always felt like I was on my own. But there are lots of people out there that go through the same kind of thing. And the important is to have some people around you that will tell you the truth, that'll be honest with you. That's important. And to not give up, because there many lesser men would have given up many years ago. But it's important to just keep battling, because in the end, if we can't fight for what we love, then what's the point?
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's powerful. Like just listening to you and what you've been through. I think there is going to be a lot of people who may be in similar situations, and it's about that. Your story giving them strength to be like, you know what? Nah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like it might be daunting, but I can do this with the right support around me and the right belief. Like, yeah, let's just keep moving in the right direction.
That's it. Keep your chin up and keep moving.
Okay, so obviously, like, you've kind of been there, done it. You've gone through, like, done all the research and ways to kind of like get that support, which sounds like obviously it was hard work. Yeah,
it's a lot of hard work. I feel like there's not enough information given to parents about where you can get help from, what's available for you, what routes you can go down. There's just not that, especially for guys. There isn't. I mean, there's a lot of I've researched a lot, and you see a lot of like these parent groups and things like that. Me, I'm quite a private person. I don't really like to go to these parent groups and things like that. I'm not. It just doesn't. It doesn't work for me. I'm not. I may seem confident, but I'm not that confident a person around people.
quite introverted. Like.
Yeah, I'm quite introverted. I like me time.
Yeah.
But so that kind of thing just doesn't work for me. And then trying to find any other help, is very, very slim. Other than a couple of emails that I can send and ask for advice. I actually found going and speaking to some social workers and stuff myself personally to be able to get some kind of help, get them to point me in the right direction of things that I'm doing, but I've had to force out there to get the help, to find out the information, whereas it's not, given to you by schools and doctors.
And I mean, some people as well, if you've got children's services involvement and social workers, they might be a little bit like, can I ask for this? Am I going to get judged?
Yeah.
Asking for advice or help, like
it can be quite daunting. I mean, I've had like a few